Hey guys, my name is Tyson Thornton, and welcome to my presentation on database concepts. So first, let's define what a database is. It's a systematic collection of data. And who uses databases? Pretty much any company, service, or person that has a lot of data to keep organized. I used to work for a medical software company that specialized in ophthalmology, and the databases that we created for the clients held everything from patients' personal information to their billing history, exam history, optical orders, and even information for the practice, like their inventory for optical and medical. So in order to create and manage a database, you'll need a database management system, or a DBMS, which is also known as a database engine or a database server. A more modern and advanced version of a DBMS is an RDBMS, or Relational Database Management System. And that's what's more commonly used nowadays. And what they are, they're programs that allow users access to create databases, manipulate the data, manage security for who can access those databases. Data can be written directly to the database from the RDBMS, or it can be connected to a software program or a website. And some popular RDBMSs include MySQL, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, Postgres, and a lot of others. So next, let's look at an example of how maybe a database could be formed from the very beginning. So what we're going to do is let's pretend that we're starting a business selling some homemade dog treats. I don't have this business, by the way, but so what we could do is maybe start a spreadsheet and just start collecting all the information for our orders. So we've got a column here, customer name, product, and so forth. We start filling that in. The problem with that is once we grow, this format isn't really scalable. The information is going to change. You know, the returning customers might change their address, or maybe our products change or prices change. And so there's going to be conflicting information once we come back and look at this data, or maybe try to pull up information later on. And so a good alternative is to actually just separate out some of this information into different worksheets. That's what I've done on here. So now I have different worksheets. I have a customer worksheet, a product worksheet, and an orders worksheet. So that's basically, we're starting to create a database here. So a database consists of different tables, or in this case, different worksheets that contain information that's related to each other. So in my customer table, I've got all the customer information. And you have different elements of a database right here in an Excel worksheet. So the worksheet itself is, like I said, a database table, but then you've got the columns. So, you know, last name, first name, and the columns are considered a database field, or maybe an attribute of the entity. And then you've got a row here. So Harriet Hoffman, here's the information for her. That's considered a record. So we've got rows of records and columns or fields. And then each piece of individual data here is considered a value. So there's information that will need to be used in other worksheets, right? So this customer table, customer information, that'll be used in our orders table. So in that case, what we do is we create this this column here, this field called customer ID, which is what is called a primary key in the database. And it's a unique value that represents this information. It's unique to the database and to this table here. And so, for instance, like this right here, for Jerry Snell, 165428, you know, that's used on the orders table. There's a customer ID column here, and right here, we've got his information. So all of that isn't being repopulated into this table. It's just this ID is being used for reference. So there we go. So when that is done, when this customer ID is being used in this table, that's actually considered what's called a foreign key. And we'll look at that in a minute. So when we build a database, let's say we wanted to create a formal database, we'll need to design it and map out all the tables. And a tool to do that is to create an ERD. So an ERD is an entity relationship diagram. And what it does, it visually shows the structure of the database. And I've created one here. And what this ERD shows is this an example of a database that's going to be created for a business that owns apartment complexes. You can see the different tables represented by these by these squares here, but these different tables, and then in the table you have their fields, and this first one in the table is the primary key, and next to each one of these you have the type of um, information that will go in it. So in this case, the int represents a number, an integer, and then you've got the varchar, which represents a text or string. And then in these tables, you might have a foreign key like we talked about. In this case, apartment key is actually the primary key of the apartment table, but it's being used in this tenant table. And then finally, we have some of these lines that connect the databases, and they show the relationship and how information is shared between them. So the last thing we're going to look at is just a quick example here of building a database with code. So, normally with a web database, you'd use PHP and SQL. This doesn't use PHP, but we're just going to grab some SQL scripts. In this case, we're creating a table that has 3 columns. And then in those tables, or I'm sorry, in those columns, in those fields, we're going to populate some data. So I'm going to build that. So now I've built the database or the table, and now I want to be able to see what I built. So I'm going to use SQL again to pull out that information, and there we go. So I pulled out, I see my 3 columns and the information that I pulled in based on my SQL query. So that's it, guys. Thanks for listening, and please post any questions or critiques. Thanks.